Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name's Lefebvre, and today I'm going to be doing another spread in my sketchbook for the 30 Days of Sketchbook Joy challenge. Today's prompt is wildflowers, which is why I thought I'd bring you along because I love painting florals with you, and it's a really fun challenge to do. So let's jump in and get started. Okay friends, so today I'm going to do another page with you in my sketchbook of the 30 Days of Sketchbook Joy. I've just been having so much fun with this, and I also recently did that video on the acrylic inks. So I wanted to show you how I would go about this wildflower study for day 26 with acrylic inks, probably some other mediums as well, just because it's so much fun. I love painting flowers, and I'm going to try and paint some flowers that I haven't done before. So I looked up Ontario wildflowers because I live in Ontario, Canada. And I'm going to do a few of them that I found online. So the first one is a trillium. And the other thing I wanted to say was I went and I bought these mini glass jars because I want to mix more paint. So I got these ones from Michael's. It was like $7 for what, 3 of them? It was just too expensive. So I went to the dollar store and I got these tiny ones, which should work for these paints because it is easier to mix them, like have the colors already mixed, and then you can have them closed and make sure that they're airtight so that they don't dry out, because I have used them in the palette, but you have to use them right away because they are acrylic inks. They dry out and you cannot reactivate them. So it's nice having them in a little jar that you can open and close. Hopefully this seals well. It should, right? That it won't dry out. So there's a couple of colors I want to mix, and I'm going to do that first and then get started. So I have the primary colors. I have a magenta, red, yellow, cyan, white, black, and then I have mixed some of my own, which if you guys saw the last video, you saw I did a couple of greens. I have like a lavender, but there's ones that I don't have that I would like to use, like an orange and a more purpley color, probably another green because I'm obsessed with green. But yeah, there's a couple that I want to mix. So the first one I want to mix is like a little kind of purpley pink. So this trillium that I'm going to do is a red trillium. So it's kind of like magenta, but a touch of purple. So mostly magenta. So I'm just going to squeeze a bunch of magenta in there. Then I'm going to add just a touch of cyan and see what color I get. I don't want it to be too blue, and I feel like the cyan is pretty intense. So I'm just going to get a paintbrush. This is an older paintbrush. We can use this. And I'm going to mix it up, see what color we get. Yeah, it's kind of like, ooh, it's a nice like berry kind of color, which is actually perfect for this trillium. So I think I'm going to use that. So I can always make more of this. So just a bunch of drops of the magenta and then a tiny bit of the cyan, and you get this really beautiful berry color, which I will show you once I'm done. Okay, so I'm going to wash that brush off. Actually, you know what? Why don't we just start painting this one and then we can let it dry and mix more colors. So I want to use these acrylic inks kind of like watercolor. I really love the wet on wet technique, that the effect that you get with them. So I'm going to do this trillium, and it's kind of like, it has like these 3 main petals, and I'm just going to do it with a light, like it's more watered down than anything. Light wash of water with just like a hint of the pinkish red color. So you have 3 petals kind of come out this way, and then 1 down the middle. Like so, and then we let the magic happen. You touch it and let it go. This is what I love about these acrylic inks, is just the way they act like watercolor basically, but they're acrylic. The only thing that I don't love about them, which is not very much, is that because they are acrylics, they do not reactivate, right? So once you kind of lay it down and it dries, it's gone, right? It does its thing. I'm just going to add some water. And it's a little bit, unless you mix all your colors beforehand, it's hard to kind of set up and come back to. That's one thing I love about watercolor. I'm going to add a little bit of pink, is that if you have to go do something, you know, you can just go do your thing. I'm going to actually go like this, boop, boop, and then come back, and you don't have to worry about things drying or anything like that. You can just come and go as you please. And that's what really appealed to me about painting with watercolor as a mom of little kids, because kids are unpredictable, obviously. I want to make this a little bit more jagged, like it's kind of folded. And it was just really easy to come back and go and come as I please. If they were napping, or if, you know, they needed my help with something really quickly, it was always the easiest with watercolor. But they're not here right now, so I'm going to enjoy these. And I'm just kind of going back over the sides, but I love how it has this watercolor effect. It's so pretty. Okay, and then there are green, 3 green leaves kind of behind it. There are these like little white centers. I'm just going to kind of go around and leave like little white dots for the middle. Okay, like that. We're going to let that dry. So that's our first one. We will come back because I don't necessarily want the green to bleed into those petals. Do I, or do I not? I mean, I do want it to be kind of loose. Maybe I'll just do it. I don't know. I actually also have to see what these leaves look like. So I just have some reference photo. I just looked up trillium online. Actually, wildflowers. And they have these leaves that come out every which way in the background, like this. They're like thinner leaves. Actually, I want to add more water there. Like that. If it touches the petals a little bit, that's okay. And then kind of let it do its thing. There we go. Like that. And then there's like a stem. And then they have these bigger leaves. Looks like there's 3 big leaves. And I'm just kind of like shaking my brush around, moving it around just so you get more of these jagged leaves. Boop, boop, boop. Look at those bleeds. So much fun. I feel like these bleed a lot better than a lot of watercolors. Some colors you'll know with watercolor do like the explosions way better than others, but it's like all the acrylic colors do this really, really well, which is exciting. I'm going to add a dark, maybe yellow actually. Yeah, this is the only thing is I love the access that you have to a palette that's already, you know, ready to go. Actually, I got to cover that so it doesn't dry out. Add a little bit of yellow in there. Maybe a little boop, boop. Let it do its thing. And I might add some colored pencil to it after as well. Okay, so there's our trillium. Kind of looks a little funky, but I'm liking it. I think I do want a darker green before it dries. Let's see. I have this other green that's a bit more blue heavy. But we can always do more, like I said, with pencils and crayons afterwards. Yeah, I might do that. Okay, let it be, Emma, let it be. So there's the trillium. All right, so the next one I want to do, let's cover this so it doesn't completely dry out. And this will be a test. I'm only mixing a little bit because I want to make sure that these actually stay fairly fresh, if that makes sense. Okay, so the other flowers I was looking at, asters. I love asters. Asters are some of my favorite flowers. Usually see them late summer, early fall. And they're just so beautiful. So they're purple. So we have this purple, but they're more of like the lavendery color. But I want to add a little bit more pink to it. But just to kind of keep up with that explosion theme, I might add it here. Hold on. A little bit of pink there. A little bit of this purple there. Like that, and we can go back and forth. Okay, so I'm going to do like a little cluster of them, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with like a circle, and I'm going to do the asters kind of coming out like the petals like this. And then I'm going to touch it with the color towards the center so it bleeds out. Let's see how that looks. So fun. I just kind of hope it reaches all the places I want it to. Really, I'm just experimenting and seeing what works. You can have some that are fully dark. I don't know. I might do some that are a little bit more blue. I'm going to do another one. So I'm going to do the circle. And asters just have these tiny little petals. They look like fireworks almost. I'm going to grab a little bit more of the lavender. Just kind of mix the two. Just see what happens. Move it along a little bit. Like this. Do another one. Doing it like right in the middle of the page. Do another one right here. You can even just touch another flower. Use the color from there. Do some that are lighter. Not all of them have to be super dark and vibrant. I'm doing one over here. Just little lines, and I'm just using my size 6 round brush for this. And this round brush is actually fairly old and destroyed, so it's kind of doesn't have the greatest tip anymore. This is all pretty clustered together. All good. And like I said, we can use like our pencils and stuff after to really kind of, you know, change it up, make it a little bit more defined. A little bit of this purple. I like it. Okay. Let's do one more here. Maybe this one's pointing down a bit more, so the petals on this side are going to be longer and then shorter on this side. Just gives a different kind of perspective. Like that. And then maybe one more over here. Or just like half of one or something. See, this is the only thing is like the ink goes such a long way. Like you don't have to use a lot, but like there's so much right here that we're not going to use and it's going to dry up. That's the only thing. Like you got to use it and you can't like mix too much. Like I just want to like take this ink and put it in here. Like don't waste any of this paint. Okay, there. And it'll just make it a little bit more on the purpley side, and that's okay. Okay. So there's that. This will barely make a difference in this color. There's that. And now I'm going to take some green. I do like this green. But actually, I'm going to mix a little bit with the purple here to make it a little bit more, what's it called? muted. And I'm just gonna do little stems. Nothing too fancy here. Like that. There's not, I'm trying to look for a picture where there's more visuals of the leaves on these. Not too many. It looks like they have like tiny little kind of jaggedy leaves on them. I could be wrong. Yeah, they're like little leaves that are kind of on. Actually, there's a little bit more of this color to it. They're a bit of a cooler green, the leaves. Do a couple of stems that kind of don't have flowers. Like that. All right. Then I will go back into the center with the yellow, or I could always do that with like a pencil as well. Let's see. If I grab just a tiny bit of yellow, and then we'll do more in the centers after. Just put that base there. Okay, we're gonna let that dry, and then we'll do one more wildflower, and then we'll come back and do some more detail. Okay, let's do cone flowers, the black-eyed Susan. I've seen those around my neighborhood when they start to bloom. So with this, we're gonna need some yellow, but I'm gonna start off with just some water, same kind of thing. So I'm gonna imagine, if you want, you can always, use a pencil first, if I can find it, to make that cone top. It's kind of like a gumdrop shape. We'll do one there, and we'll do one here. And then from there, I'm just going to use my water to do these longer petals, kind of pointing down from that center. I like to think of it like a tutu, like a ballerina tutu, and I'm just going to touch it with the yellow and let it do its thing. You can kind of help bring it down if you need to. Do the same thing with this one. They can kind of overlap. This one will be behind. A little bit more. I feel like I need to mix an orange, so let's do that. Let's make an orange color. So yellow. I find yellows tend to be a lot more transparent, and the other colors that you mix with it will be a lot stronger, so you don't need to use as much of your next color. So I'm going to take just a little bit of my magenta, maybe like 2 drops. Mix it like that. Kind of tap it around. Not really exploding the way the others were. Just want to add a little bit more darker color in there. Like so. And then the centers are kind of like this dark blackish brown. So I don't want to use an actual black though. I'm going to take a little bit of green, just to get like a muted yellow. Mix this with a little bit of green. Like that. Then I'm just going to put the lid on this one. And I'm going to use this cool green again. I'm going to start with just some water. And then the leaves on these ones are also kind of like smaller. So let's just let it bleed. Like that. Like that. Maybe you can just have one with just the leaves. Like so. Might take a little bit of that orange that we did. Just pop it in there. Like that. All right. Then we're gonna let everything dry, and then we will or should I do that center? I kind of want to just take a little bit of watercolor or something for the center of the Black Eyed Susan. I'm gonna do a base of this dark brown watercolor crayon. It's because I don't want to use black and I don't want to mix a brown right now. I'm just going to go with this brown color, and then we will darken it and add more to it after. All right, so let's let everything completely dry. Okay, so now that it's dry, I'm actually going to bring in my pencil crayons. These are not watercolor crayons, or people call them colored pencils other places. I call them pencil crayons, but they're just Prismacolor Premier colored pencils, and I've been really enjoying adding these to my illustrations lately, so that is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start off with the cone flower just because I have the photo right in front of me, and I just like grabbing, you know, a similar color. I'm gonna grab an orange and just adding a little bit of texture to it. I love the way that colored pencils look on top of watercolor or even acrylic inks. It's just a really nice way to add that extra pop of color and texture. And I just love the way it looks. So I'm just adding a little bit of extra orange to the base. I do want to get a little bit of a brown. And this one's not good. Not a good one. All right, here. Just to get some of the shadows in there. And again, it's not realistic or anything. Just adding some really loose texture. Some lines just to show the movement of which way the petals are going. Just gives it more of an illustrative look, which I like. If you want to go even lighter, maybe you missed some highlights, you can go over with like a light color. That's one thing I like about these two, is that you can layer light colors over top a lot of the time. I'm gonna add a little highlight up there, and then I'm gonna grab some black if I have it somewhere here, and then just darken up this center, especially by the base, with a little bit of kind of like these circular motions for a bit of texture. Like that. And then for the green, the leaves, a lot of the time I've been enjoying just grabbing some dark green and just adding some, you know, you can even add lines if you like, veins, some shadow at the base, nothing too crazy, totally up to you. Or the other thing I've been enjoying doing is grabbing like a really bright green and adding like pops of chartreuse, this is, on the leaves, which I really think adds a nice brightness to it, which is fun. So there's that one. And obviously you could do so much more to it. For our asters, the center we definitely need to work on because it's just kind of plain little yellow bits. And we have the lightest part there. So I'm going to grab a darker orange or even a light brown. And I'm just going to kind of do like little circles just around like the base of the centers. So not over the whole thing because you want some of that lighter yellow to shine. Just doing these tiny little. And it just makes it pop so much more. You can even shade a bit more. And I'm just picking one side of the yellow center and just kind of adding some of that. See that? Cute. And I don't know if it will go over top. Yeah, some of the yellow kind of goes over top. You can do a little bit of yellow dots. And then for the purple, I have a few different purples here. You can always just add different purples in there. Go around some of the petals if you want. I'm using this lavender just to separate some of the petals, add a pop of the color to it. I'm really enjoying the way mixed media is looking lately. Don't get me wrong, I love my watercolor too, just watercolor, but I just find there's so much room for creativity with mixed media. Here's this like super light blue. You can add a little bit of highlights on some of these. That's what I like I was saying about the pencil crayons, is you can add light colors over dark colors, and it just gives it so much more dimension. That, and then I'm going to get a really dark purple if I can find one. Do I have a darker purple or even a dark blue? You know what? I might do that. I just need to sharpen it. If anybody has a good recommendation for a good sharpener, let me know in the comments. A little bit of a dark blue. So pretty. Just so for our shadow. I'm just creating the shadow on the same side as the darker brown part for the center. And I'm really just scratching this color. Like, I'm not doing anything fancy with my pencil. Just scratching like that. And then again, you can always do, you know, light bits on your leaves if you like. Up to you. I think that's pretty good the way it is. All right. And then lastly, this trillium. I want to do a little bit more detail on it. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of like this magenta. I'm going to go around the edges of the other leaves a little bit. I see a little tiny hint of that in some of the photos, which is a nice little addition like that. And then I can use that same color to do some lines on it, or I can get an even darker color. I think I have a darker red here for some veins. Like that. I like that. And then I might get a lighter, I don't know, even like a peach or something, just for a little bit of highlight towards the center of the petal. And then that white, they have like little white centers. Which I really like. I feel like I need to make the center a little bit darker around it. I like that. Okay. And then I'm just going to take my dark green, a little bit more darkness to the center here, like where it's hitting the other petals. Add a little bit of line work. A little bit of shading. Like that. Then a little bit more of that bright green. Maybe some like textured like dots. I think that looks pretty cool. And there we go. There are our wildflowers with acrylic ink and pencil crayons or colored pencils. That is so much fun to do. It's just so much fun to be creative and try new things. So I definitely suggest you check it out and give it a go yourself. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on all my other platforms for tons more content. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.